You're not going to build wealth working for somebody. One of the cool things about entrepreneurship and having your business is that there's no ceiling, but there's also no floor either. You can come into a job every day and not work hard and you're still going to get a paycheck. But when you have your own business, if you come in and you don't work hard, you're not getting paid.
I think a lot of people get what's called analysis paralysis. They basically overanalyze and they never take action.
You look at the stats and there's thousands and thousands of more Airbnbs coming on every single year. But that's the reality of any business. There's going to be competition there. And I think the key is to figure out. Welcome to the Rehab with Ehab podcast. I'm your host, Ehab Shoukry, where this show is designed to help you achieve wealth through real estate and financial freedom so that you can escape the rat race and live life on your terms. I'm super excited today to have my guest on the show, Jeff the Builder. Jeff, you are a builder extraordinaire, Airbnb super host. You create super cool Airbnbs, including a 5-unit container home, which I do want to get to that. You've got remodels, a lot of cool things going on with your business. But before I jump into that, and six-pack abs, by the way, but before we go into that one, I do want to just know more about you, like how you got started in real estate, what's your background, so people know that, where you came from.
All right, thanks for having me on Ehab. It's a pleasure to be here. As you mentioned, I'm Jeff Sturman, or also known as Jeff the Builder, CEO and owner of Vecino Homes, residential construction and development company in Houston, Texas, building quality homes for our fellow Houstonians, and we also have, a significant rental portfolio. So, my start in real estate was in 2012. I was working as an engineer in oil and gas, and I figured out very quickly I didn't want to climb the corporate ladder, and I wasn't building wealth the way I wanted to. So I figured I'd go ahead and buy a home, rehab it, add value while I lived in it, and that was kind of the American dream, right, to have a home ownership. So I did that. It took a lot longer than I thought. It took over a year, but we did it and was able to sell it and make as much money as I was making in a year working as an engineer. So I really liked it. Wow. So I kept doing that and eventually was able to go ahead and quit my job in mid-2018. And it's been, real estate ever since.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Yeah, I mean, we all know that you're not going to build wealth working for somebody, right? So you have to kind of venture out and create some sort of business, whether it's going to be real estate and or a coffee shop or whatever it might be. But you're not going to get rich, and you're not going to build wealth and create that stability unless you own your business. So that's great that you saw that. I do remember that you told me at one point that you house hacked. And I thought that's a super cool idea, because a lot of people talk about house hacking as a great way to get into real estate. It's pretty much low risk because you're living in one side and you're renting out the others. Tell me about your house hacking experience, and if that's something that you would recommend for people to do.
No, I definitely recommend house hacking if somebody wants to get into real estate. It's because it's the lowest kind of cost to entry. You're able to go ahead and get a conventional FHA loan with low down payment. And so that's what I did. It was a 403K loan. So it was a loan to acquire a distressed property with some money to fix it up. And so that's exactly what was done. The house was purchased and remodeled while living in it, and then rented out a room to get some rental income. And yeah, so basically had a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house in the suburbs with a pool. It was like $1,300 a month payment, and someone was living in a bedroom paying $650 a month in cash. So it was effectively living for $650 a month. It was a good deal. And so, like I said, it's a really good way for someone to get started, low barrier to entry. So I definitely highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think the great thing about house hacking too is, when you talk about that road to financial freedom, it's not only about how much you can make to replace your job income, but it's about keeping your expenses low too, right? So for $650 a month, I mean, you were really doing a good job of keeping your living expenses low.
Yes, I mean, definitely. I mean, this is obviously, a decade ago or more. Bought a house in the burbs for $126,000. I don't think you can do that anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, you buy a fixer-upper, add value, she'll keep your expenses low.
Yeah. So tell me about Vecino Homes. I mean, you've built over 100 homes in your time, but tell me, like, what does your business look like now? What's your main focus, and your employees? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Vecino Homes, like I said, I founded it in 2017. It was just me in the beginning, but now we've grown. We have 9 employees, and we're a residential real estate development construction company with a focus on building new construction homes, priced between $350,000 and $550,000. So we really focus on building quality homes, target more the first-time home buyer, so the lower end of where those markets are. But we really focus on quality of construction, of design, and I was going to say, so we build about 30 or so homes a year, and at the same time, we have a rental portfolio of 29 rental units. So we develop real estate and we sell it, or we build real estate and we rent it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so your rental portfolio, is it a mix of kind of short-term rentals and long-term rentals, or how's that mix of your portfolio look like?
So it's a total of 29 units. 23 are short-term rentals. There's 4 long-term rentals, residential, and then there's 2 commercial rentals.
Okay, awesome. What do you do to decide if you're going to make a property a short-term rental or a long-term rental, just out of curiosity?
So it's got to you look at cash flow potential, and typically for short-term rentals, it's going to have multiple units on one property. So in the beginning, we're doing a lot of single-family homes with auxiliary dwelling units in the back. So I think you might have seen some of our tiny houses. Mm-hmm. So those are auxiliary dwelling units, and those do quite well because they're unique. Or I have like 2 5-plexes, one of the shipping container apartment complex you mentioned, and another one is a 5-plex in the Heights. So you want to have multiple rental units bringing in revenue, because in the rental game, you want to have occupancy, right? Mm-hmm. So as close to 100% as possible. If you have 1 unit and that tenant moves out, you go to 0% occupancy. So it's just also making sure your income is covering your debt and then some with profit. And usually it works out much better if you have multiple units.
Yeah, that shipping container project of yours, it's so cool. I remember I went to the launch party of that, and just seeing the way you stacked them up, and they were so cleverly designed. One of the things that struck me that I thought was so cool about it is that you didn't necessarily have to put a kitchen in each one, and you really focused more on the aesthetic and the design versus stocking it with a lot of amenities, like mm-hmm. a kitchen or things like that. And it really goes back to the idea that people want just cool short-term rentals. They just want cool Airbnbs. It doesn't have to have all the amenities that you have in your home. They just want something that's different and unique. And I feel like you really adopted that style. What was your approach with that shipping container Airbnb? What were you thinking with that?
Exactly. I mean, we wanted to go ahead and provide a very unique experience, right? And like I said, well designed. So you saw the themes, different nice pops of color. My girlfriend was the designer on it, and it was called Preppy Theme. Okay. So she's very talented. Check her out. It's VR Designs, and basically when people go on vacation, how many of them are cooking? Very few. Yeah. So having a kitchen's great, but that's not most people's priority. So we really made it a priority, like I said, to design, and there are amenities on site. We have a hot tub on the roof, grills, right? We have a turfed area where people can hang out, and different games and stuff for people to play. So we just wanted to make a very unique experience, and I think we were able to accomplish that.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to share pictures of that for sure, because I want people to see really how cool that turned out. That's a super cool project. Yeah, and and the great thing about it is it helps to cut down your build costs too, right? Not having to do the plumbing, not having to do the cabinets and the appliances and all that. I mean, that just saves thousands and thousands of dollars right there. So I think you really nailed it with that. Yeah, so I think creating cool experiences, cool, unique characteristics of your Airbnb is super important. I'm remodeling a house right now kind of east of downtown Houston, and I'm looking at putting in a pickleball court in the back of it. I think that's going to be something that's unique because, from all the statistics I've seen, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America right now. So, I think it's kind of being aware of what the trends are, what people are looking for, and creating a product that's attractive to people. So that's super cool.
No, I agree. I mean, you have some very amazing Airbnbs. The one we're sitting in right now is like a mechanic shop, and now you made it this like beautiful Airbnb with like really cool neon signs and really industrial look. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're definitely someone I look up to
Yeah.
in the Airbnb space.
I appreciate it, man. You're definitely somebody I looked up to as well. I mean, I remember seeing some of your Airbnbs when I got started. I didn't even know what Airbnb was, and somebody had shared with me some of your listings, and I was like, this guy creates really cool properties. So do you have like a favorite property of yours that you've created?
So there's a few. I was gonna say, I really like this one that my girlfriend designed on Lockwood. It's this boho chic vibe. It does phenomenally well. I love the design. I also love the income it brings in.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, just so people have an idea of what that is.
So it's a single family home that we remodeled in the East End, and so we added a second story on it. And so apparently people in high school call it a camelback, where you add like a second story in the back so that you really can't see it from the front.
Okay.
But it's just a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house, but it's beautifully designed. It's called like this boho chic look. So it's got like a hanging egg chair and like, you know, some like cathedral ceilings with wood beams and some really nice fixtures. It's just really well designed. But it brings in so much money because it's 2 units. It's got a 1-bedroom studio, like a studio upstairs that's gorgeous, and then a 2-bedroom, 2-bath down. And so that's my, I think, highest producing Airbnb of all of them.
Can you share the numbers, or is it just too good that people won't believe you?
I think it's doing like a 50% like return right now. Like it's bringing in, I don't know, like 40 something thousand a year. I need to double check my numbers, but it's bringing in really, really good money. So it's, I mean, those kind of deals, like I said, it's just a beautifully designed property and it cash flows extremely well. Another one is like the little A-frame house. It's like 300 square foot A-frame. It's like 12 feet wide by like 24 feet long. And that one does really well. It does like 3,600 a month. I think the other property is Lockwood, and it does like 8,000 or so a month.
Yeah, and that's incredible, because I don't know if people picked up on that, but a 300 square foot A-frame making 3,600 a month. I mean, that's just incredible if you think about the return on the square footage that you have on that property. So, you know, it really does reinforce that it's not just about, you know, the size or just creating the same old cookie cutter template. People want unique experiences, and it doesn't have to be really big either. It can be something small and unique, as we see with like cool glamping sites or these domes or things that really just, you know, might be just even a single room, but it just is so cool that people like to stay there.
I agree. And then the thing is also, because of the market we're in Houston, right? So we're not like on a coast. We don't have beautiful mountains to look at or beautiful lake. Like, you have to make the property kind of the main attraction, right? As long as guests are saying, okay, well, I'm at a certain proximity of, you know, where I'm going to be if they're coming to Houston for a convention or like the rodeo, whatever event that might be. But at the same time, like, you really need to make the unit stand out, because you don't have a compensating factor like, you know, a beautiful, you know, natural, you know, feature nearby.
Yeah. Oh sense? Man, and that's gold too, because, you know, I never even thought about it that way. You know, I just have invested in Houston because it's kind of an affordable market. But you're right. Like, if you don't have something that just compels people to be there, like mountains or a beach or, you know, a river, then the property has to be the attraction. Yeah. And that's just so smart, and that's what you've done, really.
Yeah. I went to like Lake Travis in Austin, and the property was not nice at all. It had like cobwebs everywhere. It was old and ratty, but it was right on the lake. So you're like, well, whatever, I'm going to just sleep there and I'm going to wake up in the morning and walk out to the lake. So we just don't have that in Houston.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Random question, because I know, you know, you're an engineer, and, you know, engineering is not one of those, you know, easy degrees. So you invested a lot of time in school, a lot of energy, and now it's kind of a thing of the past for you. What was that conversation like with your parents, telling them that I'm going to stop being an engineer and do real estate full time?
You know, they've always been supportive. So yeah, of course they're like, are you sure? Like, are you going to be able to go and support yourself? And this is what I recommend to most people, right? Like, don't leave your day job until you have some sort of stable foundation. You know, I'm all about taking risk, but it's calculated risk. And so when I left my job, I already had several projects going, I already had income coming in. And in real estate, it's doubly important, because not only is like, hey, can I put food on the table for myself, but can I get financing for projects? And unless you have extremely deep pockets, or somebody's backing you with millions of dollars, lenders won't lend you money unless you have a steady source of income to repay them. So that's why I held on for as long as I could. But I literally got to a point where I had 10 projects going while I was working a full-time job, and I just couldn't. I was working probably 60 to 80 hours a week. And I knew that I got to a point where if I made a mistake on my real estate, which was kind of my side hustle at that time, in like 2018, it could cost me more than I was making my day job.
Yeah.
And so I got to a point where I said, I have to go ahead and make a decision. It wasn't that I woke up one day and said, I'm going to do real estate, I'm quitting, and then I started my real estate journey. I'd already been there for years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like I said, they were supportive, but they were obviously had concerns because there was no steady paycheck anymore. But now I've gotten the business to a point where I do have a steady paycheck. I'm an employee of my own company. So, and that's what I live off of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I was talking with somebody, and one of the cool things about entrepreneurship and having your business is that there's no ceiling, but there's also no floor either, right? Like, you can come into a job every day and not work hard, and you're still going to get a paycheck. But when you have your own business, if you come in and you don't work hard or you don't do something, you're not getting paid. So a lot of people talk about just the limitless possibilities, but very few people talk about that. There's no floor to you as well, right? There's no safety net.
Well, you can also lose money, right? Like,
yeah.
It's unfortunate, but some entrepreneurs will go bankrupt. I mean, so there is definitely risk, but I personally feel like the risk is definitely worth the reward. It's just taking calculated risks. And yeah, I mean, to me, the upside is so much greater than if you're just a W-2 employee on a fixed income. But obviously the downside risk is not only do you not make money, but you lose money.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'm curious, why real estate for you? Because, I mean, I think there's a lot of different types of businesses you could do. You probably could have done your own engineering firm doing work as well. What made you go into real estate?
So at first it was, well, how do people have wealth in this country? It was through real estate, right? Most people have their net worth is their property they own. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and try this out. And then I became passionate about it. I found that my passion was real estate and housing. I mean, housing is a basic necessity. And so basically being able to provide that to people. And, it's not only about providing that, but providing a quality product that's well designed, that, the look on people's faces when they get excited, they see the homes, if people make, memories in these houses, they, start families. And so that's something that really makes me passionate and I really enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, we think of it as dollars or cents or, closing statements or loans, but at the end of the day, it's people's lives, it's people's memories, it's the homes that they're going to live in and grow up in and raise their children in. So it really is a noble business that you're in, creating these homes. And I know you said in the kind of the price point you're at, it's a lot of starter homes for people. Is that by design? Do you like being in that price point because you feel like it's a kind of a safer investment, or what kind of keeps you in that range?
Yeah, so when I started, it was in the 200s, but now we can't. There's no, we can't physically make homes in the loop and make money in the 200s. There's no way. Just inflation. Materials gotten too expensive, land's gotten too expensive. So now we're in the 300s, even the mid to upper 300s. And yeah, we want to go ahead and serve that entry-level market, which I felt like was underserved in the sense of just not enough inventory, not enough quality inventory. And so that's where we really want to focus. I mean, I've been told multiple times over that we can build $1 million plus homes, but that's just not really where I'm passionate about. It's more about building a really quality product, but at an affordable price point. So we call it like custom touches. So they're not custom homes or spec, but we do like custom touches on our homes to make them look like custom. So we do like a secret door in the half bath that like leads them under the stair. Okay. We do like waterfall countertops on the island. We do some really nice like tile selection, like much more expensive than you'll see in any other spec home in that price point. Accent walls, just really well thought out natural lighting, high ceilings, so really well thought out like lighting selection. So it's something that we really want to stand out amongst the rest, because in residential real estate, the values are based off comparable sales. We don't, we set the price, but an appraiser has to come through and say that yes, that's worth that, and they're looking at other comparable homes around us. So we're not competing on price, we're competing on quality.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think, so many people hesitate getting into real estate investing because they think it's saturated. You hear about like the Airbnb bust trend, and you look at the stats and there's thousands and thousands of more Airbnbs coming on every single year. But, that's the reality of any business that is going to be lucrative. There's going to be competition there. And I think the key is to figure out, how are you going to beat out the competition? Don't let it scare you away, but let it fuel you to, create a better product than your competitors. And that's definitely something that you've done. That's something that I strive to do as well. So
I agree. I mean, there's definitely steep competition in both the Airbnb space and even the, home development space. And my philosophy is that, don't go into a space just like being scared of competition. What you have to be is like, I'm confident that we're going to build a better product. We're going to, deliver a better service than the competition, because the cream always rises to the top, right?
Yeah.
There's no market crash on the Airbnb space. I mean, there are definitely operators getting out because the low quality operators aren't getting business, right? People are going to the higher quality listings, the higher quality operators still. The market's not going to zero.
Yeah.
It's definitely going down, but we're not, we're actually seeing like rising revenues now. And then same in the home building space. It's just, building a quality product and knowing that there's still customers out there and who need to buy houses.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at BPCon this year in Orlando, the Bigger Pockets conference, and listening to some speakers talk about short-term rentals. And one of the questions from the audience was, what do you think about the competition with short-term rentals? And I love the response that was given. She said, the competition are the people that are in this room, right? These are the people that are coming to get educated, who are trying to become professional operators. The competition is not all those listings on Airbnb, because a lot of those listings, 75% of those listings, are people who are just doing this as a hobby. They're not professional Airbnb hosts. So the competition are the ones that people like you who are really thoughtful about your design, who take operating seriously, who run their businesses as a real business and not a hobby, and those are your competition at the end of the day, not the thousands of other listings that are out there, people who are just kind of doing it in their backyard as a hobby.
I agree completely. I mean, there's a lot of like mom and pop operators that are just doing it to try to make some extra money, and it's not gonna be the same. Like, they might deliver, something that's lower priced, but I think the guests are gonna go ahead and get wise to it and leave corresponding reviews.
Yeah. So
that's the thing, is that, like I said, we've been able to maintain Superhost because we maintain quality of service and of design, and it's thanks to, like, I think you're gonna have him on another podcast, Anuj Data of 81. Like,
yeah.
he takes care of my whole portfolio. I don't really have to worry about it. So it's and that's the thing, is that, I knew I was gonna have Airbnbs, but I really want to focus on development, and I take these properties and run out and I hand it over to a professional manager who's got a team in place to service the units.
Yeah, that's so smart, because you have to recognize what you're good at and what you enjoy doing versus what is holding you back from growth, right? And if I think people lack self-awareness, and if they're not thoughtful about the things that they enjoy, the things that they don't do well, then it's going to be a big barrier for people to grow, right? And you've done that. You realize that you don't like the property management portion of it. You like the development, the creation part of it. So you kind of outsourced the part that you don't want to do, and that you frankly probably don't think you'd be great at, because it's not something you're passionate about.
I agree. I found out pretty quickly when I had to go at 3 a.m. to bust up a party that had like 25 kids smoking pot, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's just too much. Yeah. Too much stress, and but yeah, I definitely agree that people should figure out what they're passionate about and focus their, not only passionate about, but also good at, and they can make money at, and focus their attention on that. If you're passionate about it, you're good at it, you don't make money, then that should be a hobby. But like I said, for me, I think I'm definitely passionate. I think I'm pretty good at, and we definitely make money at the real estate development and construction business.
And passion, I think a misconception is people think they're just going to find their passion, and then just naturally be great at it. But what I found with passion is that it's something that you grow and develop the better you get at something, right? So the better I've gotten at being a short-term rental operator, the better I've gotten with my remodels, the more passionate I've gotten about creating super cool properties and projects that people are going to enjoy, staying at.
Yeah. I mean, it's a journey. I mean, people think that real estate, different avenues to get rich quick scheme, and it's not. It's a get wealthy slow thing. I mean, I've been at this for 10 years. I mean, you've been at this for how many years now?
I've been at this for 20 years.
It's 20 years, so it's not an overnight thing. It takes time to develop the skill set, and the reason I think we've been in it so long is because we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Right? If we weren't passionate about it, we would have found something else to do.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Man, I love that. So, so you've got a great business. You've got so many great things going on. Where do you want this to go? I mean, I think we were talking before, and you have big dreams for your company. Like what's your plan? How far do you want to take this thing?
So on the real estate development side, right, we're doing about 30 homes a year. We want to get that to 120 homes a year, and that's like a 5 to 10 year goal.
Wow.
So around like $50 million in revenue, and basically the way we're going to do that is just keep growing our team, working with great people. So we have a great realtor, Chris Vanna Trust Real Estate, so he does a great job.
Yeah, I love Chris.
Selling our homes. And so that's the goal on the real estate development side. We don't want to be like a D.R. Horton or like a Perry Homes, or these guys are doing 1,000 units or more a year. It's not something that I want to take my company to, because at that point, it just becomes a faceless entity, and we really want to be like the friendly neighborhood builder, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about getting as big as we can. And then on the Airbnb or the rental side, in the next 3 years, we'll get to 100 units. We're doing that because we actually have 3 projects that are going to be small multifamilies. So an 18-unit apartment complex over near U of H, and then 2 10 units or so over in the kind of East River neighborhood. So that's going to be another close to 40 units added to our portfolio, and then just keep doing kind of more small multifamily builds. So leveraging our ability to develop and build, and applying that to like small multifamilies.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I tell people about real estate investing that it's not sexy, right? Like it's hard work, and the more you want to make, the more you have to just continue to rinse and repeat, right? Like, so you've got this great model, and I've got properties where we buy fixer-uppers, or you build from new, and turn them into rentals, whether it's going to be a short-term rental or a long-term rental. If you want to make 10x that, then you just got to go out and get 10 times more properties, right? Or if you want to be a $100 million company, then you're going out and getting a lot more properties, right? But you're getting good at the skill of identifying good deals and being a value-add investor, whether it's building on the land or renovating it, or even a value-add investor by being a better operator, right? Like you can operate things better and increase the revenue that they make. And the more you do that, the more you rinse and repeat, the more you'll make, right? And so that's really kind of the real estate game, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, you hit a good point. Essentially, it's not like we're manufacturing a software that we can just sell digital copies of, unlimited. You need raw land, and that's a large barrier, right? It's finding the raw land in the right shape and size and at the right price. So, and then materials during the pandemic got quite difficult to get, and then we saw a lot of inflation, but land is really the key. So that is one complication in real estate, and like you said, if you want a 10x, you have to go ahead and 10x the amount of real estate you have, but I still love the game. It's something I definitely want to do for the rest of my career.
Yeah, that's definitely what successful people do, is they enjoy the game, right, of finding the deals, the hunt, right? And I think that's something that a lot of inexperienced people get they get discouraged from, right, is the hunt. So many new people will hear no 1 or 2 or 3 times, and they'll just come back and say, this real estate thing doesn't work, right? Yeah. And they don't realize that they just might be 5 or 10 no's away from getting their first yes.
Yeah.
And that's when the real work starts, right?
That's very true. I mean, I used to, like, when I first got in the game, I would just cold call people. I had no idea what I was doing. I would just like search and like try to find property that like somebody held for decades and like nothing happened. So I'd literally pick up the phone and call them. I'd have to like try to find their number and call them, and they're like, "Who are you? Why are you calling me?"
Yeah.
Like, "I want to buy your property." And so, I mean, I have a realtor. I still look for property myself, you know, and then it's just, you got to get used to no. And it's I mean, especially in sales, I mean, you can't let no dissuade you.
Yeah.
Are you like, how are you acquiring properties now? Is it mostly?
Mostly MLS. I think people are blown away when I tell them I get my deals from MLS. But I've got, I've adopted the slow and steady approach. I'm not trying to add 20 or 30 properties to my portfolio every year. I'd like to get 2 or 3 really great properties every year as of right now. So, for me, because I've gotten better at talking to people on the phone, and I've established a track record that I can now kind of flex when I'm talking to a realtor, so that they know I'm the real deal. I don't have to get a whole lot of no's now. I certainly got a whole lot of no's back when I got started, but now I can call either realtors I've developed relationships with, or I can call a new realtor and say, hey, this is my portfolio of properties and I'm looking to buy another one in the area, and talk to them through an intelligent conversation on the property, and come up with a win-win solution, right? Like, I think if you just call somebody up and say, hey, your $200,000 property, I want to buy it for $100,000, you're going to get a lot of no's that way, right? But if you learn to kind of have a conversation about it and say, hey, I know you're asking $200,000, but I'm looking and I'm seeing that the foundation is bad and it needs a new roof, and you've got kind of a justified reason for offering a lower price, well, then that can make a lot more sense and can be a lot more palatable to somebody.
That makes sense. And like, I also buy still a lot on the MLS, and I think what people need to understand about MLS buying and as an investor, like I kind of live by the philosophy, you got to be first or last. So first meaning like literally hours of hitting the market,
Yeah.
you're going ahead and contacting the seller, and then last meaning you're looking for listings that have been the days on market for like 90 plus days.
Yeah.
That are just stale. And then if you do that, you can find good deals. And the way you're first, I tell people, is find a market and focus on that market, and know that market like the back of your hand. So if you see something pop on, you don't need to run your numbers. Right away, oh, this is a good deal, I'm going to buy this. So that's, when I first started out, I kind of had what's called like shiny object syndrome. Mm-hmm. I was looking everywhere. And Houston is such a large market, there's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's inside the loop, outside the loop, just like I said, and then it's really like on a micro scale, right? So like knowing block by block. So you pick a zip code, and then even with that zip code, you focus, because if that zip code spans over a freeway, on one side of the freeway is going to be one way, and the other side of the freeway is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
And then its school zones are important, understanding those. So it's really understanding your markets, and then constantly, like I used to check the MLS like several times a day. I don't know how often you check the MLS.
Yeah. Well, I set up alerts. So fortunately, the MLS we have here in Houston, you can you can save a search and it'll notify you anytime a property in that zip code comes on the market. So I get those every day in my email, and that's probably the primary way which I can farm MLS.
Okay, very good. And what are you targeting right now? Is it mostly just value add?
Yeah, anything I buy is fixer upper. I know there are other strategies out there where you can buy nicer homes, but because I want to get in at a good price, and I like to do my whole kind of BRRRR strategy of buying and rehabbing and then refinancing. I like value add, and I like the ugliest of all properties because it forces you to put everything in brand new. The plumbing, electric, HVAC, so what's behind the walls, right? And the key to having a great property and being profitable is keeping that maintenance cost low, right? And you don't want to get your profits eaten up with maintenance down the road. So, and then bad reviews because things are constantly breaking. So, the ugliest property for me is the best one.
That makes sense. Yeah, I definitely, when I was doing more fix and flips, I buy it by the same principle as like, give me the ugliest thing. But you try to buy it for basically the value of the dirt.
Yeah.
And so you're getting some value from the structure.
Yeah.
But now we're focused mostly on buying raw land to develop. That's kind of our our main focus right now.
Yeah. So I know you meet a lot of people all the time who want to build a real estate business or get wealthy through real estate, but so many people aren't able to do so. Like, what do you think the biggest barrier is for people to get into real estate, and kind of the biggest reasons why they end up not making it?
I think a lot of people like get what's called analysis paralysis. You know what I mean? Like they basically overanalyze and they never take action. I think a lot of people just never try. I mean, I had a buddy who was for literally years like, hey, I'm going to do a deal, and just never did a deal.
Yeah.
And so you got to go ahead and just do a deal. The house hacking way is the lowest barrier to entry. I mean, some people say, I don't have the money. Well, if you're putting 3% down on a $300,000 property, it's like $9,000. And I think most people obviously have closing costs in addition. I mean, people can save the money up. People can go ahead and talk to friends and family to raise the money. I think a lot of times it's just a lot of people use these as excuses to not get into the game. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've done deals when I was first starting out where I lost money. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
So, but obviously it's not about that one deal. You're gonna do like I've done over 100 deals. So it's about what's the average. So, I think a lot of people, like I said, get scared, get analysis paralysis and never get in. And somebody might get in and then they think they're gonna make these crazy 6-figure profits and say they make, 15,000 and they say, hey, this isn't for me. Like people might not have the right expectations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to Jen Gottlieb the other day talking about, how sure do you really need to be when you do something? Going back to that analysis paralysis comment you made. And so many people think that they need to be 100% sure about something, but the reality is that, number one, no one's ever 100% sure. And number two, when you haven't done something before, you'll never really be that sure. So she said, and I love the way she said that, she said, you only need to be 51% sure, right? You just need to be a little bit more than halfway sure. And the rest will follow, right? The rest will get better over time. And then the next deal you do, you'll maybe be 65% sure, and the deal after that, 70% sure, and then there'll be a deal that comes around where you're maybe back down to 51% again. Especially as you're growing and you're trying to, do bigger and bigger deals. There's one property I'm buying right now that's a warehouse that I want to turn into a co-working space. It's going to be an office that I'm going to use. It's going to be kind of a training classroom, and I want to rent out the other space as well. And I've never done that before. And when I think about it now, I have it under contract now and we're going to be closing on it, but I probably am 51% sure on it, definitely not 100%, and definitely not 20% or else I wouldn't do the deal, but I probably am right around 51% sure. And that was enough for me to move forward with buying it, and I think about what's the worst that can happen. Well, it'll be an office that I'll use. Maybe no other space gets rented out, but then maybe it does, right? And that's always the beautiful thing about real estate is the downside is so scary, when you think about it, but think about the upside too, right? Like what's the best that can happen as well. And I think, and I know because we both are full-time in our business and we've kind of experienced the financial freedom, even though we're still grinding and hustling in our business. I mean, nothing beats being able to work for yourself and dictate your own schedule.
Yeah, right? I agree. I mean, as far as being 51% sure, I definitely agree. You need to have some, you don't want to gamble, right? Yeah. Like a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to me, what I always look at is as like an educational opportunity. Like you're learning something. So like say you don't make the amount of money you do want to make on a deal, or even you lose some money, like, well, what do you learn from that? And you take those learnings and that's value. And you roll that into your next deal. You take those learnings and you're like, well, this deal didn't go the way I wanted to because of X, Y, Z, then I'm going to apply that to my future deals. So I see it as basically you're getting education. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're definitely getting education. And, real estate is one of those unique ways where you can get paid to learn too, right? Because, if you, I think, do have the right training and education, then you can make money on a deal, whether it's a flip or whether it's a short-term rental that's profiting every month. And it is a way to kind of earn while you learn, So speaking of education, like I have a mentorship program, and I know you just recently kicked off kind of a mentorship internship program for people who want to really learn how to master the new construction field. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's very small. We'll have like 5 students, and we're keeping it small. We might take one more, but basically it's for people who want to do real estate development and construction.
Yeah.
So it's really tailored to their needs, sitting people down, saying, where are your goals? Where do you want to be? Some people say, I want financial freedom. Like, well, that's going to come along with it. We need to be more concrete. So someone's like, okay, I want to do $12 million of real estate development in the next 3 years, right? With a net profit margin of like, say 7%. And that's, people see like real estate margins and are not 20, you're not making 20% net. This is not happening. Mm-hmm. Industry average is 6 or 7%. So just sit people down, let them know, okay, well, like let's set your goals, right? Make them smart, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Yeah.
We set them down, make the goals,
smart goals.
And then we basically, plot the course. A lot of times starts with, okay, we need to find land for you to develop, and then we work on just kind of going step by step through the process, just educating them on the areas that they're weak on, putting them in contact with people they need to be in contact with. If they need architects, they need engineers, just kind of building their team. And a lot of times the team isn't people that are on their payroll, right? They're contractors. And that's how I would recommend getting starting out. Don't go out and start hiring employees, because that's increasing your overhead. Yeah. And so basically like building their business and then educating them on industry specifics. Like, well, now this Chapter 42 livable places ordinance is passed. That's really going to change the landscape of development in Houston. Now, front loaders, or the 25-foot wide lots, aren't allowed in these complete communities, and they're not allowed within 1,400 feet of a school. So there's just a lot of kind of pitfalls or landmines people can fall into that can basically blow up a deal, or make people lose money, or make deals not developable. So making sure that they're aware of those, making sure they have access to utilities, because if you don't have water or sewer in the street in front of you, you're going to have to go ahead and pay for that. Yeah. And so some people don't know that.
Yeah, you've had like a hard lesson with that before, right?
I have, yeah. I bought a building that was a bar. So I didn't really do my due diligence as far as utility availability. I said, it had a bar, it had toilets, it had sewer. Well, that sewer line was plumbed into the storm drain, which is very illegal. So we're not going to do that. We're paying about $60,000 to go ahead and do a sewer line extension. Yeah, wow. So just making sure people know how to do their due diligence before purchasing a deal, how to put together financing, how to raise money from investors. So it's just kind of, like I said, very tailor-made to the person, because some people may be very strong in the construction side, but very weak on the development side, right? Like putting the deals together. But as far as building something, they can build it. Or they might be really strong in the development, but very weak on the construction, or might need help in both. Most people need help in both areas. Yeah. So yeah, I've had a student who started with me, like I think it was a year and a half ago, and he went from, I think, doing like, he did 2 fix and flips or so, and then we sat down and he's done his first year with me. I think he did 4 new constructions, and then next year he's going to do 13. Wow. So basically, from like 700,000 to like 1.1 million to 4.6 million. That's incredible. So it's, really just trying to go ahead and, I'm not doing the work for them, they're doing the work, but I'm really just, holding their hand, pushing them along, right? And just trying to hold them accountable, but they have to put the work in. So it's, I really like it. Like I said, I can dedicate a small portion of my time, because my thing is running casino homes, but I really do like educating people and helping them along, because I kind of wish somebody was there for me when I was first starting out, because everything's available now online. You can YouTube, Google, you have bigger pockets, but it's really hard to get that specific, like, okay, well, here's what you don't know, mm-hmm. And so someone to sit you down and really talk you through and figure out where are the gaps in your business or what you need to really work on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the great thing about mentorship is helping people see things that they're not able to see, and then helping set expectations too, right? Like, I think people have these unrealistic expectations coming in, and to just reassure them that what they're doing is right, or the results that they're getting is right. Maybe they're expecting 20% and they're getting 7%. And you as a mentor telling them, well, that's pretty good. That can keep people motivated and focused on continuing and growing in their business. So that's awesome. You mentioned kind of raising private money, because I know that's always a challenge for people in real estate investing. Like, where do I get the money from? How do I get the money? It's especially because, when you're new, it's hard to ask people for money when you have no track record and really no experience, right? And it can even be a little bit reckless when you're borrowing somebody else's money. You don't really know what you're doing, right? So like, what kind of advice do you give to people in terms of being able to, get the money, which you mentioned that you did?
No, I definitely agree. It's a really, it's something that needs to be talked about. So don't take someone's money unless you know what you're doing, right? Don't be reckless with someone else's money. If you're reckless with your own money, that's fine. Like, that's why I said starting out with a house hack is a great thing, is because you're just starting out. And a way to go ahead and, kind of hedge or help with that is having a mentor or having somebody who's an expert in the field holding your hand along the way. Yeah. So, and that's what a lot of developers do, right? The developer is a developer. They buy the land and they go ahead and design homes on it, and they go hire a builder to build it for them, because they're not a builder. Other people want to do both. So, don't take people's money unless you know what you're doing, or you have somebody on your team who does know what they're doing, right? Yeah. And so you can go ahead and fill in those. I always say you need to have the knowledge, right, the time, and the financial wherewithal to do a deal. Those are the three things you need. Yeah. And so, get the experience yourself, or bring somebody in who has the experience, and then go ahead and raise money. And it's going to be, at first, a lot of times you go to friends and family, right? Because a lot of times it's friends and family, people know you the best. And so in order for most people to invest in a deal, most people aren't real estate investors. They don't understand how to analyze a pro forma. They're like, I trust Ehab. I'm going to invest in him. Yeah. They're investing in the person and not necessarily the deal. Yeah. So, but my thing is that you treat other people's money like as more valuable than your own money, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, it's really something that I'm still not perfect at, and then going out and asking people for money is something that kind of can cut against the grain for what, like, my comfort level. But one thing you have to realize is that, look, you're offering somebody an opportunity. You're not saying, hey, just give me money. You're like, give me money, and then after the deal, I'm going to give you back your money plus this return. And so, I'm going to make you money, and people like that. Yeah. And I always recommend doing things where you're looking for passive investors, meaning that they're not going to be actively involved in the deal unless you have somebody who also knows what they're doing in real estate and can partner with. But like I said, we do limited partnerships typically. So we have limited partners, they invest their money, and they're just completely passive. So they put their money up, I'll send them an email once a month saying, hey, here's the status of the project. We close the project out and we disperse the funds.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And I tell people some of the best ways to ask for money is just to make it a conversation, right? Like, people always want to kind of find out what's the best partnership, right? But the best partnership are the ones where both people feel like they're getting their needs met, right? And so, for one person, just having a conversation with them in terms of what kind of return are you looking for, you might have a conversation with somebody that says, it would be great if I can get 10% back on my money, right? Because they don't have a way of earning anything better than 10%, right? Maybe their only option is to put their money in the stock market, which gets them 5%, right? So 10% would be incredible, it'll double their return, right? But when we think about that in real estate, if you can borrow money from somebody and just give them 10% back, and they're not charging you points or origination or extra fees, that's a really great loan, right? And it's a win-win for both people, both the investor and the person lending the money as well, right? But others might want equity. Maybe they're a little bit savvier investors of their money, and so they're looking for equity in a deal, or they're looking for maybe a higher return. So I think the best thing is just to have a conversation and figure out what's a good fit for both parties.
I agree. You got to go ahead and understand, like, I always tell people that, look, know your direction if you're taking your business, and then find people who are willing to jump on with you for that journey. If somebody says, no, I only do the deal if you do X, Y, Z, and you're like, well, that's not what my business plan is, then just say, like, hey, this is not a good fit. There's a lot more money out there than there are opportunities. Like, you're going to be able to turn people away saying, hey, like, this is my deal. Do you like it? If not, that's okay. Like, we'll let you know if more deals come along. So don't go ahead and, change the course of your business because an investor comes along and says, I'll only do the deal if you do X, Y, and Z. But it's understanding what people's expectations are. It's meeting expectations, because if you say, hey guys, we're going to give you, 12%, like with an equity investment, you can turn around and return them 9, they'll be very disappointed, right? If you say, hey, we're going to go ahead and return, 12% and you return, 15, they'll be very happy. You want to set expectations and meet them or exceed.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be falling short.
Yeah, like under promise and over deliver, right?
Correct.
Awesome, man. Very cool. So, I mean, you're an ambitious guy, good looking guy. You got the 6-pack abs, you got a successful business. What's your motivation behind all this? I'm just really curious, like, what's your why? Because I mean, you're working hard and you have big dreams for your business, right? And that's not going to be an easy road. So just tell me a little bit about, like, what's your why? What's the driving force behind all this?
I mean, I really just enjoy, what our mission is, right? To provide quality housing, to fellow Houstonians. I mean, it's like if somebody said, hey, you can make 10 times the money doing like crypto exchanges, or I'm like, I don't care. Like, that sounds horribly boring.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you trained me, I would not do that. So like, it's not about it's like I said, it's something I'm truly passionate about and I enjoy doing. So yeah, I work a lot, but to me, it's not really work because I enjoy doing it. I mean, I enjoy, like I said, not only the act of us providing homes to the homeowners, but the fact that, we're providing, jobs. Like, we have 9 employees. We're not a large company, but we also have about 50 plus subcontractors who heavily depend on the work that we provide to them. So, I've known my concrete contractor, Juan, for like over 10 years. He'll like bring us eggs from this farm. He's got like 100 chickens.
Yeah.
So like, I know every single one of my contractors who touches like our homes. So like those relationships, like I said, helping those people be able to provide, food for their families and, support their families and provide livelihoods. That to me really, that's what I'm passionate about, right? So providing quality housing and then all that comes with it. So that's what I really like to do.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Well, Jeff, you've like dropped so many golden bombs on me and all the listeners, man. I really appreciate it, man. Wishing you massive success with your business, and man, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ab. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, thank you.
It's a lot of fun.